Alright, y'all boys, we back with another video. So today we are going to be going over the new buffs that we're going to be getting in April. Now, I've been waiting for these buffs for quite some time because there's actually some characters in here that you're probably going to notice straight off the bat that definitely needed buffs, and the ones that you probably thought they didn't even need buffs, right? So we're going to just talk about them. There's obviously some very important ones, and then there's some ones that didn't really change too much when it came to JP, which we don't necessarily care about or going to talk about because they're just not really that much different or usable compared to how they were before. They're still basically the exact same. So the ones that we're going to talk about is obviously, as you can notice on the bottom right hand corner, is Blue Geto. Blue Geto got immense buffs. Like, I'd say out of all the characters on this entire list, he had the most amazing buffs, the most noticeable out of every character here, because now he's practically insane with these buffs. And I'm glad that they did this because people used to shit on this character all the time for being literally one of the worst characters. Only time you would use him is obviously straight purely for his debuffs. It was like his ult was a meme, right? It's like he has all these modifiers and shit on it, but then it's so conditional, and the damage it's ridiculous. I think it was like 300% or something, and then you get extra damage based on how much curse energy he has just to do normal damage that other characters do. And I say normal damage, but his was very low damage. Then the next notable character out of them is probably going to be Green Yuji. Now, Green Yuji, he actually becomes an absolute behemoth. And the difference between how he was before and now is night and day. He actually becomes very powerful and a very good alternative green DPS option. So with the wish list that people were probably shitting on and complaining about, like, oh, it's fucking Green Yuji, Blue Gojo, and some fucking dog shit Maki or whatever, blah, blah. I don't give a fuck what you think, motherfucker. That is a good wish list because you have good characters in there. You have Blue Gojo, an amazing blue DPS that people use for a long time on JP. You have fucking Green Yuji. He's fucking amazing too. He's with his buffs especially, he's going to be even more valuable here. So if you didn't have a good green DPS, you definitely could have picked up Green Yuji there. Even if you have him already or you have all the characters there, I would probably still say pick up Green Yuji from there because getting those dupes mean that he's going to have more stats. Then the next notable character is going to be Green Nanami. His Black Flash become more consistent. He gets more buffs when he's Black Flashing. A lot of other good things that make him feel a lot better than he was previously. So that's very nice. And then we have Blue Megami. So I do see that there are some people who did use Blue Megami, especially for Curse Sweep and a lot of other things on JP. And he does seem to be a little bit better than he was previously. So I definitely think that's good because, as you know, he was practically unusable. His skill 3 is kind of shit and all that. But now he's actually a character that can actually be used when you have his new buffs. And then we also have Yuta. Now, for me, I know a lot of other people are like, wow, the Yuta buffs are amazing. For me personally, I don't really see it that much because of kind of like how the team comp you're going to be running with him anyways. So he does get more cursed energy. I believe he starts off with like a shit ton of cursed energy, like 70 or some shit like that. It's a lot. But then you'll be like, oh yeah, but in the grand scheme of things, you'll have more skill 3s overall in total. Yeah, that's true. And you'll be able to do more damage. And I get it. I understand where you're coming from. But in most cases, you're going to be using Yuta on, excuse me, not Yuta. You're going to be using Yugi on that team anyways. So you really shouldn't have a lot of cursed energy like depletion. You should be able to maintain it relatively easily. So that's the only biggest reason why I don't really see the most overall benefit in Yuta. But I mean, people will probably be like, fight it and be like, yeah, no, he's better. It's fine, whatever. It's not like it's a bad thing. Adding more curse energy is still not a bad thing. I still feel like they could have added more things to make him feel a lot more potent. Now, obviously, he does have his skill 2, where his skill 2 changed. I believe it's not crit resist anymore. It's like a damage increase or something from like curse. I don't remember. We'll go over it in a sec, but yeah. And then we do have, other characters like Kamo, SR Maki, and Blue Todos. Their buffs are kind of alright. There's still not a lot of play from Blue Todo. If you're like a free-to-play player, there's some cases where you might be able to use SR Maki and Kamo. And then obviously we'll just kind of go over, the main characters like JJK, Zero, Geto, and of course Yuta, things like that, because those are probably the ones that people care about the most and they want to know what they, what they do now, right? So let's get on with it and, talk about the ones that I mentioned that are notable. All right, so we're here at Blue Geto. So if you are a longtime viewer, you already know that this is probably one of my most favorite characters in the entire game, and it was unfortunate and a big disgrace what they did to this character on his release. I was absolutely destroyed by the fact of how bad they actually made this character. So let's actually talk about the character and go over what's going on here, right? Because this character is absolutely insane now. So obviously we're not going to talk about the adjustments of the characteristic, because this characteristic is fine. It's really good. At the start of each turn, you recover your curse energy by 20. That's amazing. That's literally good. Plus you already get 10 too. So it's like, yeah, all right. He's going to have no curse energy issues. Now we're gonna have skill 1. Skill 1 becomes amazing. So skill 1 has 180%. Taijutsu damage to select enemy, and then the more curse energy you have, the greater crit hit rate boost. But then basically what they did is they basically make his skill 1 essentially kind of like Green Geto, where of course you'll have a crit hit rate boost, you increase your own crit hit rate, you deal more damage, and then it's just ridiculous. Look at the graded effect that dishing up to 60%. Right, and then you also increase your Jujutsu stat by 15% for 3 turns, and then if your curse energy is 60 or above. So basically, his skill 1 is kind of like the skill 1 of Green Geto, which I'd say is probably one of the more powerful skill 1s in the game in terms of doing damage. Very nice, right? We don't care too much about it, but obviously I felt like it was important to point that out. Now we have skill 2 adjustments, which are going to be insane. So we have 270% range Jujutsu damage to select an enemy. Then if your curse energy is above 30, then you do 33%. Taijutsu stat decrease to them, and then you also increase the selected enemies' Jujutsu damage received by 33%, which is very powerful. So if you're fighting a boss that does physical damage and you're using a team that does curse damage, you're going to do a lot of damage, and he's going to fit very well there, and he's universal, right? So this is what a lot of people used him for as well, before his buffs. But now with the actual buffs, he also decreases, I'm pretty sure he decreases a little bit less, but the more curse energy you have, the greater the effect. So realistically, you're still kind of debuffing him a little bit more than you were previously with curse energy, which isn't hard because he gains back a lot of his curse energy. And the same is going to be for, of course, his increased Jujutsu damage received to the enemy. It was 33% before, but with the buffs, if you have the max amount of curse energy, you're going to go up to 50%, and you can do that for 3 turns, which is insane. That's a lot of debuffing on the enemy. That's going to be a lot of fucking damage. So he definitely becomes a lot stronger there in that department. So skill 2 becomes significantly stronger. Let's go to skill 3, because skill 3 changes a lot too. So before, it was just an AoE damage move. The more curse energy you have, the more damage you did. But now with the actual buff change, you're going to increase your own damage by 10%. On top of that, it's going to be up to 100% with the more curse energy you have. It does range damage to all enemies. And on top of that, it increases all enemies damage received by 30%, at the max curse energy, so above 60. And it's 10% below that, and then you have a minimum of 18.4% increase at 25 curse energy, which is easy because this is probably what you're going to have all the time, just because you already gained back a lot of curse energy due to his characteristic. Now his ultimate obviously had a big change as well, because as you know previously, he didn't do too much damage. He did 329%, which is already on the low end. That's the lowest that you have in the entire game like for SSRs. And then on top of that, you get the damage boost based on how much curse energy you have. So it's like you have that curse energy, let's say you're at 100 or you're at max or whatever, you get all that extra damage, and now you're like at 800%, which is the norm for like a lot of other characters. So realistically, I just thought that's just so stupid, because now it's like characters are doing this on average, and he needs a conditional effect to do that on average. It's just really bad, and that's kind of what made the character very terrible. A lot of people just like, wow, this guy hits so fucking weak, it's ridiculous. Like, why the fuck would you even use this character? And they're right for that. But yeah, and then on top of that, it also reduced your curse energy to 0 when you did the ultimate, which is bad, because then when you have to set up for your skill 2 and your skill 3 again, then you're kind of like drained. But then after the post adjustments, he becomes an absolute behemoth. So now he increases his own damage by 20%, and then the more curse energy that you have, you'll increase up to 200%. Okay, we already know all this. You deal 760% already. This is your base. Your baseline is now 760. And then you increase your Jujutsu stat by 30%. And then you reduce your curse energy by only 60 instead of course, draining it to 0, which is good, because what this means is now with this effect, which we already had obviously previously, it isn't stated here. We now have a higher baseline, and then we have the increase on top of that baseline. So now you have an average medium with the conditional effect on top of it to actually do more damage. So in most cases, I feel like you can even do almost a little bit more than Blue Gojo in terms of damage. Like no joke, because of all the debuffs and everything. Now, granted, obviously they're not on the same team. If you're talking about like individually, yeah, Blue Geto does more damage than Blue Gojo. So yeah, he becomes an absolute monster. Now let's talk about, of course, the passives. They don't change, because you don't need to change the passive. Every Geto has this same passive effect, and I don't think they really add any other passive effects outside of absorption. But yeah, now he's significantly better, and I feel like he probably had the best changes overall. Now, obviously, it might not seem like much when I'm talking about it, but in practice, in gameplay, like actually playing with him, you will notice it drastically. Like his damage output changes so much. It's literally night and day. I can't even begin to explain. If I was hitting like 1 million, 2 million before with Geto and all the buffs and debuffs, he's now hitting like 6 to 8 million easily. Like it's that easy, right? And he's a debuffer character. He's not like they label him as an attacker, but he's mainly a debuffer character. Let's be real. We use him for his debuffs, not for his damage. So having that damage output too is insane and tremendous. But anyways, that's going to be all the buffs for the global side and the characters that I think that got the most improved changes. So I think it's already been long enough. I'll see you guys in the next video, but I can't wait. I'm excited for those blue Geto buffs. I want to see him very soon. Very, very soon. I want to see him.